From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Trapped in a grain bin.
And I thought this is how you're gonna die in this freaking bin.
The amazing effort it took to free one farmer buried in corn, and his message to all producers. As floodwaters continue to rise in the Midwest,
it's heartbreaking to see anything like this.
the impact that's having on farmers and what that means for the movement of ag products.
So clearly that has an impact on rivers and the ability to have barge transportation.
Our team coverage continues on the devastating flooding in portions of the Corn Belt right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Grain shipments aren't moving right now in some areas due to flooding in the Northwest Corn Belt. We've been keeping you updated on this with heavy rain bringing widespread flooding to Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota. The issues causing the Chicago Board of Trade and the CME Group to issue force majeure notices. The legal clause allows parties to suspend or terminate their contractual obligations when events beyond their control happen, and that can include natural disasters. Right now, the notice is for corn shipping stations along the Illinois River. Experts say it could lead to shortages of finished products and delays in shipments both locally and nationally. But the issues go beyond that. It's reported that flooding has inundated fields, potentially leading to significant crop losses. And right now, river levels in the area are continuing to rise.
Yeah, we've seen a real dramatic increase in water levels on the Missouri River. Very notable. Last week at this time, there was only a 3-foot difference in water levels between this date in 2024 versus the same date in 2023. And now looking at today, there is a 20-foot differential in water levels between this year and last year. So it just really shows how much these water levels can escalate. And so clearly that has an impact on rivers and the ability to have barge transportation.
The flooding has also damaged critical infrastructure, including bridges and rail lines, further complicating transportation. Steenhoek says one of the most impactful is the BNSF Railway Bridge across the Big Sioux River near Sioux City, which he says will require considerable time to repair. A failed levee, a collapsing dam, and flood-swollen rivers are just some of the issues combining to swamp communities and force evacuations across those areas of the Midwest. And as Laura Aguirre reports, more rain is in the forecast.
Raging floodwaters around the Rapidan Dam in southern Minnesota finally claimed this house, teetering on the edge of the Blue Earth River. Local officials say the dam, built in the early 1900s, is in danger of imminent failure.
We're seeing whole trees just flowing right down the river, which is an incredibly important reminder for folks to stay away from the water and stay safe.
Water levels on the Minnesota, Missouri, and Mississippi rivers will see their highest levels in at least a decade, say forecasters, with a number of communities already accessible by boat.
It's heartbreaking to see anything like this.
More than 20 river gauges across the upper Midwest hit major flood stage, with more rain expected in flood-soaked areas Thursday. In Iowa, the Little Sioux River has washed over small towns like Correctionville after a levee failed, forcing evacuations there and in several surrounding communities. The Clay County Sheriff's Office confirms one of the flood-related deaths happened there when a man tried to drive through rapid-moving water last Saturday.
They need to stay out of the closed roads. They need to stop moving barricades and driving around them. We put them there to keep them safe.
Minnesota's governor is telling residents Wednesday to keep their receipts to get financial aid faster as property damage continues to grow by the hour.
Until some of the water recedes, we won't have the full picture of that as well.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting for AgDay.
The threat of severe weather persists with Iowa and Illinois in the bullseye today. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht is continuing to track it for us.
Yeah, for Thursday, again, that ring of fire that we've been talking about the last couple of days at saddle point between the digging trough and the ridge of high pressure is where we're going to see, again, a return of some showers and thunderstorms, possibly some heavier downpours and severe weather right along those two areas, again, between the trough and the ridge. This starts to settle down a bit as we go into the weekend. Severe weather threat starts to come down, but late Friday night into early Saturday morning with more of a zonal flow trying to set up within the jet stream. We're going to get showers, heavy downpours working from the west to the east as we go through the weekend. This will start to play into next week, our 4th of July forecast, as we get another ridge of high pressure dominating nearly 2/3 of the United States. And it's not one side of the country or half the country over here to there. Rather, it's the south and the north. That ridge is going to be dominating parts of the south with a little bit more active weather back up towards the north. And more dramatic scenes from the dam that close to collapsing in Minnesota. Watch as a home, look at that, falls into the water. Good news here, the family that lived there had been evacuated, so no one was injured. The ground under the house was undermined by water from the Blue Earth River rushing around the 114-year-old dam. The home, serving as a store, was famous for its pies. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
The Iowa Utilities Board has approved the Summit Carbon Solutions pipeline. The pipeline, which would be the largest of its kind, would transport liquefied carbon dioxide from ethanol plants in Iowa and neighboring states to North Dakota, spanning over 2,000 miles. 75% of the Iowa route landowners have already signed voluntary easement agreements. Now, critics argue the pipeline benefits corporations at the expense of rural communities and poses safety risks without significantly reducing climate pollution. The approval is contingent on securing necessary permits in South Dakota and North Dakota. Now, construction is slated to begin next year, but Summit Carbon Solutions must secure a $100 million insurance policy before that construction can begin. USDA says 4 states are launching a voluntary pilot program to test bulk milk tanks on dairy farms for avian flu. The states are Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, and Texas. According to the agency, farmers who voluntarily enter the program will be able to move their herds across state lines without additional testing. That's after bulk milk tanks or similar representative samples test negative for H5N1 for 3 consecutive weeks. The Food and Drug Administration is also announcing it will expand its H5N1 testing to include additional dairy products, such as aged raw milk cheese, cream cheese, butter, and ice cream. As of Wednesday, USDA is reporting 129 dairy herds are impacted in 12 states. The FDA has assured the public the nation's milk supply is safe based on continuous testing since the first positive case in dairy herds. Still ahead, livestock markets making some impressive gains midweek. We'll see what's moving those markets next. And later, trapped in a grain bin, one man shares his story of how a normal day on the farm almost turned to tragedy and the lessons he learned in the country. Wheat favored the upside midweek while livestock markets made bigger gains. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with an update in Markets Now.
Joining us with markets is Kevin Dooling with KD Investors. Kevin, grains trying to recover on Wednesday, but we just continue to struggle here. You know, we've given up so much of this spring rally. Why are we struggling so much in the grains right now?
You know, we always look for reasons. We always look for fundamental reasons to justify the movements. And a lot of times, you know, with this new computer trade, with AI coming online, it's those reasons are going to get farther and farther behind the scenes. And so we do have the big report Friday, and that's going to have a lot to do with it. Funds, you know, the momentum is lower. So they're going to push, and we'll see what happens after the report. I'm hoping for a break after that. So a break in the selling, I should say.
So Kevin, when we talk about the report, it feels like we're leaning really bearish going into those reports. So what is the market expecting? What are you expecting?
I'm not expecting any big fireworks as far as, based on the cash trade. We hopefully will see some numbers that say, you know, there's less stocks than we expect. But, you know, that one line item I hate in these reports is that is the on-farm stocks, and we just never know what that number is. I don't feel like that number is ever accurate. It's just going to depend on how the funds react to those numbers.
In the case of the row crops, Kevin, do you think that part of the pressure has just been this rain makes grain mentality, this idea that the eastern corn belt is cooler and wetter, and that's kind of trumping some of the problems we're seeing maybe in other areas of the corn belt with flooding?
Looking at the longer term maps this week, most everywhere's got, elevated chances of above normal precipitation. So, despite the heat, there are going to be some really muggy conditions out there, but I don't think we're not seeing that dome develop where it's dry. And as long as that doesn't exist, the funds aren't going to have a reason to cover it yet.
Thanks for joining us. That's Kevin dealing with KD Investors, and we'll have more Ag Day coming up.
Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
At July 30, you got that ridge of high pressure setting up in and across the United States. And we're going to see the hottest of the hot back down here towards the south and to the southeast. A weak trough is going to try to dig through as we get through 4th of July. But for the most part, kind of turning the corner into a more summertime pattern with more ridging than troughing. The troughs bring about more of those widespread showers and thunderstorms across the United States. This is focused more on a ridge. So there's the jet stream on Thursday and also into Friday. You got a weak clipper system working from the west to the east, and it's that system that is going to kick up a lot of showers, perhaps some heavier downpours back in the northern United States. So again, there's the jet stream coming in on Saturday. You get more of that ridge focusing into the south, also to the southwest and the southeast. That's what I mean. When I was talking about it earlier, it's not this half of the country or that half of the country, rather it's this half of the country that is going to see a ridge of high pressure going into 4th of July. A couple of pieces of energy are going to come through the jet stream, but again, that trough isn't going to go through that ridge. That energy's got to go up and over, and that's going to keep the pattern a little bit more active back up towards the United States and Canadian border. So there's a look at the jet stream on Monday with that ridge. By Tuesday and Wednesday, we start to soften out that jet stream and get into more of a zonal pattern. There's going to be some rain chances, but nothing like if we had a digging trough across the United States. So 4th of July plans look good wherever you see this big circle, because that's where we're expecting just a lot of warmth, heat, extreme heat for a good portion of the United States. So here's a look at it. This is Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning. Some isolated showers and thunderstorms back through Colorado, but also into New Mexico, as well as on the southeast coast. Start off in Louisiana, thunderstorms high around 89 degrees, low of 75. Alabama, scattered thunderstorms high of 87, low of 73. Milbank, South Dakota, cloudy, high of 75.
USDA is proposing changes to the Packers and Stockyards Act. The act is designed to stop unfair practices in meat and poultry dealings, but what exactly does unfair mean? Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack says this new proposed rule hopes to answer that question more clearly.
We clearly now delineate there is an opportunity for unfairness to be couched in terms of individual harm. An individual producer who might be able to establish under the elements of the new rule that the harm was specific to their operation and constituted a violation of Packers and Stockyards.
Now, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association not happy with the proposed rule. The organization's Vice President of Government Affairs, Ethan Lane, saying that the newly proposed rule is a, quote, direct attack on cattle producer profitability, end quote. Higher cash prices boosted cattle feeding margins to an average just under $500 per head last week. According to the Sterling Beef Profit Tracker, that's $100 over the previous week. Cash cattle averaged over $196 per hundredweight for the week ending June 22nd. Cattle sold last week carried a total feed cost of more than $359 per head. Well, that's down about $227 below feed cost for cattle sold the same week a year ago. Beef packers, they saw their margins decline $10 per head to $79 per head. We all get in a hurry sometimes on the farm. But not focusing on safety nearly cost one Kentucky man his life. His amazing story and warning for others next.
Old Hat, New Hat is brought to you exclusively by AGI. Grain handling, grain storage, grain leadership. AGI brings it all to your farm. Learn more today at aggrowth.com.
This month, we've talked about the changing landscape of grain storage, including the lessons passed from one generation to the next. Our series, Old Hat, New Hat, wraps up with a reminder from a Kentucky farmer to always respect the bin and focus on safety first. These are the precious moments Doug Omer nearly missed.
We thought we were being safe, and we let our guard down for a second, and it almost cost me my life.
May 4th, 2022, Doug and his father Mike started the day hauling a couple of loads of corn. The first load went perfectly, and Doug spent a few minutes at the top of the bin waiting for the truck to get back.
When I pulled in on second load, he was sitting up on the nest. I said, I'm going in the bin. I said, okay.
Typically, just an 8-minute job. Doug eased into the bin to watch for clumps that might clog up the works. A rope was there, but he didn't tie off.
I guess we'd run probably 20 seconds, and I hear this shh. What is that? And I turned around, and here it come. Well, I was somewhere top of my boots in corn, and when it hit me, it took me about to my bottom of my pockets and moved me about 20 foot right over the hole. I was right there. I was one sheet over that, right there. Oh, wow. We weren't too far apart. He was hearing me.
I heard a big bang, and I thought a bucket come off the leg.
And I'm not real smart, but I knew I didn't have enough Doug hanging out for 8 minutes. So I'm beating on the bin. Well, it's getting up in here, starting to kind of mash life out of me. And me and Jesus had pretty damn good talk. And I thought, this is how you're gonna die in this freaking bin. I got down to about right in here. And I had already laid my head back to give me a few extra seconds. And I hear it most every night, that breaker kick on top. It's kind of a shoomp.
Everything stopped. Doug was trapped, buried, and fighting for breath as the pressure squeezed the life out of him.
It seemed like a split second he was up there. He said, you're in bad shape. I said, I'm in bad shape. He goes, I'm coming in. I said, you can't come in. You come in here, I'm a dead man. I said, you're gonna bury me when you come in here. You gotta stay outside.
Instead, Mike called 911.
Hello, 911.
We got him uncovered and he did up, but we just can't get him out. We tied the rope onto him, and we gave him two real good tugs, and we couldn't even shake him.
Once Logan got me where I could breathe, I wanted to call my wife.
I answered it, and it was Doug, and he said, I just called to let you know that I'm drowning in the grain bin. And I'm like, what?
I said, if things go bad, tell grandkids and kids that I love them and I love you.
That started a 6-hour race to save Doug's life as more than 200 emergency personnel, neighbors, family, and friends worked to pry him from death's door. Crews brought bin rescue tubes that they had trained on just the week prior.
Them tubes are only 28 inches wide, so I'm pretty snug. And they went to digging.
A battery-powered cordless drill drove a 3-inch auger, pulling grain slowly out of the tube. With enough corn moved away, a team of 3 grabbed Doug's harness and pulled.
And I went screaming, you move me, you move me, you move me, and instantly they hit me again. They moved me about 6 inches. Well, they felt that. Again, they hit me a third time. Well, the third time, I'm standing up inside the tube.
Everybody started cheering. And it took him a while to get down the steps, but he walked down each step.
His family met him at the bottom as he was ferried to a life flight helicopter standing by in a field near the bin.
Come here, Pumpkin.
2 years later, the gift of life continues, thanks to hundreds of unnamed hands.
And you don't think your hometown people can be heroes? But they was our heroes that day.
And if you ask them their advice for other farmers working around grain bins.
Don't think it can't happen to you. He's around them all of his life. And it just it's that one instant that almost got him.
Just stand back and look at it before you bail in there. I mean, most farmers, they're all self-employed, and you get wound up and get in a hurry.
Taking time to think about safety, even on small jobs, could be the difference between a quick end and a long and happy life. And our thanks to the Omer family for sharing that story with us. And that's it for Ag Day. From all of us here, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great and safe day out on the farm.